Let's be clear, masturbation in itself isn't evil, it's normal, natural, practically universal. Nearly every human on Earth has done it. It can relieve stress, help you sleep, even boost immunity in moderation. But there's a line, and when you cross it, the consequences go far deeper than you think. You're not just touching your body, you're rewiring your brain, you're hijacking your dopamine system, and you might be slowly destroying your drive, your focus, your emotional connection, even your identity. This isn't fear-mongering, it's neuroscience. Here's what happens when you masturbate too much, especially in the age of high-speed internet, infinite porn, and endless novelty. Every time you masturbate, especially to porn, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of anticipation, motivation, and pleasure. In small, natural doses, it's healthy. It helps you pursue goals, feel good about progress, and experience satisfaction. But when you flood your brain with dopamine repeatedly, day after day, hour after hour, you desensitize your receptors. Think of it like this. You used to get a thrill from just thinking about someone you liked. Now that doesn't do it anymore. You need specific types of content, a certain genre, then a kink, then something darker, more extreme, more intense, because your brain is adapting. It's saying, we've seen this. We need something stronger to feel the same high. This is how addiction starts, not with chemicals but with patterns. You're chasing a high your brain can no longer provide, and while it's chasing pleasure, it's destroying your capacity for real-life satisfaction. Suddenly, actual intimacy feels boring, real connection feels too slow, conversation, touch, emotion, it all becomes secondary to the screen. You become disconnected from reality, and your brain becomes chemically reprogrammed to respond only to artificial fantasy. This isn't a moral argument, it's not about shame or repression, it's neuroscience. What used to be a private biological function, deeply tied to intimacy, connection, and human emotion, has now been hijacked by dopaminergic warfare. And it's creating a silent epidemic. This isn't some fringe concern or internet myth, it's one of the fastest-growing sexual health crises among young men today. In past generations, erectile dysfunction was a rare issue before age 50, typically caused by disease, trauma, or aging. Now, men in their 20s, even teenagers, in perfect physical health, are unable to get or maintain erections with real partners. Why? Because their brains have been chemically conditioned, rewired, to respond exclusively to digital, overstimulating, endlessly novel pornographic content. We're talking about fast edits, exaggerated sounds, supernormal stimuli, and instant genre switching. These aren't just videos, they're neurological landmines. Real faces, real bodies, real skin tones, and imperfections simply can't compete. The result? A tragic cognitive dissonance. When a real woman undresses in front of them, their body may want to respond, but their brain, now calibrated to extreme novelty and pixel-perfect visuals, simply says, "This isn't exciting enough, where's the high, where's the next clip?" This isn't just anecdotal anymore. Clinical studies are confirming what therapists and urologists have been whispering for the past decade. A 2016 study in the Journal of Sexual Medicine found that 1 in 3 men under 40 experience some form of erectile dysfunction, a number unheard of in previous generations. What's worse? These men often have perfectly functional bodies. Their testosterone levels are normal, their blood flow is strong, but their reward system has been hijacked. The culprit is a flood of dopamine surges from compulsive porn use, which trains the brain to expect supernatural arousal on demand. Real intimacy feels flat, real emotional connection feels tedious. Even passionate, loving sex may feel boring compared to the warped stimuli of porn. And it gets darker. Repeated exposure to high-frequency pornographic content not only numbs the brain's arousal centers, but also reshapes emotional and relational wiring. Desire becomes divorced from intimacy. Arousal becomes linked to detachment. Love and lust become opposites, not allies. And eventually, many young men report a terrifying sensation. They feel nothing at all. They scroll through hundreds of videos and images, hunting for the perfect one, chasing a high that never comes. Some spend hours edging, rewinding, switching tabs, not even for orgasm but just to feel something intense again. This is no longer sexual behavior. It's addiction masquerading as pleasure. Even more disturbing? A growing number of men admit they can't get aroused by real partners anymore, even those they deeply love. Their brains have been conditioned to equate excitement with unrealistic, disembodied, fantasy-fueled stimulation. Real sex feels like a downgrade. This leads to social anxiety, as performance fears increase relationship breakdowns, when emotional connection isn't enough, depression from repeated failure and inner shame isolation, as intimacy becomes a source of fear, not joy. We now have a generation of young men, physically healthy, emotionally sensitive, intellectually aware, who are functionally impotent when it comes to real-world sexual intimacy. Not because their bodies are broken, but because their minds have been chemically trained to reject reality. And the scariest part? They don't even know it's happening. This is not just sad, this is tragic. You might have felt it. That strange hollowness after you finish. Not physical fatigue, but emotional numbness. A dead silence inside your chest. That's not guilt. It's dopamine depletion. Every time you release, especially excessively, your brain undergoes a chemical crash. The high is followed by a dip in motivation, focus, and energy. Over time, this becomes chronic. You don't want to do things. You don't feel like working out, reading, building, creating, connecting. You feel meh, not depressed, but not alive either. Now imagine repeating that cycle every day, sometimes multiple times a day. You're training your body to trade potential energy, sexual drive, ambition, focus, for a quick hit. You become a passive version of yourself. Sex becomes escapism. Masturbation becomes sedation. Your fire gone. People who masturbate excessively, especially to porn, report higher levels of social anxiety, because their minds become so overstimulated and inwardly focused that they lose the ability to connect authentically with others. Suddenly, small talk feels hard, eye contact feels weird. You're in your head, disconnected, overstimulated, hyper-aware of your body, but under-aware of the people around you. You're used to being alone with a screen. People become too real, messy, complex, unpredictable. What used to feel natural, flirting, laughing, opening up, now feels exhausting. You isolate more, escape more, retreat more, until your real-life connections decay completely. Here's what no one talks about. When you masturbate compulsively, you're leaking your life force. Call it energy, focus, masculine essence, sexual chi. Cultures throughout history have known this. Your sexual energy is not just about reproduction. It's your vitality, your drive to build, protect, lead, create. It's tied to your vision, your voice, your courage. When you waste it endlessly on screens, pixels, and private urges, you're slowly giving away your power, drop by drop. Worse, you're disconnecting from your purpose. You may start to feel lost, ungrounded, unmotivated. You feel stuck in a life loop. Nothing feels meaningful. That's not just psychological, it's energetic. You've turned a sacred part of yourself into a dopamine vending machine. And deep down, you know it. One of the most common excuses is, I need it to relax. But here's the paradox. Masturbation can give short-term stress relief, yes, but too much of it creates long-term stress. Why? Because it erodes your confidence. It makes you feel like you're hiding something. It drains your energy, but more than that, it kills your inner edge. You start shrinking from life, avoiding challenge, avoiding discomfort. You become reactive instead of creative. And you know what's worse than stress? Living a life where you're constantly distracting yourself from who you could have been. First, stop lying to yourself. Be brutally honest. Is this empowering me, or is it escaping something? Track your habits. Observe your patterns. Understand your triggers. And most importantly, take back your energy. Try a 7-day or 30-day challenge. Start small. Cold turkey isn't for everyone, but consciousness is. The goal isn't shame, it's freedom. Redirect that energy. Work out, build something, talk to people, breathe deeper, create. Get bored on purpose, so your mind learns to be present again. Lust, when transmuted, becomes creative fire. You don't have to lose it, you have to learn to use it. Because if you don't control your desire, it will control you, quietly, invisibly. Until one day, you wake up a shell of who you could have been. This is not about moral judgment, it's about reclaiming power. You were not born to be a slave to impulse. You were born to channel energy into something extraordinary. So ask yourself, how much of your greatness have you given away in exchange for 5 seconds of release? And more importantly, how much are you finally ready to take back?